Hey guys, what you're about to hear is actually, first of all, I'm actually recording this intro sadly 2 weeks after the Spurs lost to the Knicks for the finals. Hey, but at least we San Antonians, at least we have some dignity. I'm going to point that out. But anyway, I recorded this, I would say maybe a month before this was released, somewhere around that time at a Corpus Christi Comic-Con. I just want to thank Sabrina, one of the people in charge of the events, for giving me this opportunity. But if the audio sounds weird, it's probably because I decided to do mic on top of mic. I mean, I realized I could have just used the recording mic, but I decided to also be using the actual microphone that the events use for the fan panelists. And there wasn't a lot of people in the audience, and there wasn't. Like, the room was short enough to or small enough to where I could have just, compress my voice, or not compress, but well, you get the picture. I probably did not need a microphone, and I could have just used my recording mic, but it is what it is. I hope you enjoy this. It's just me talking about the 20 years since the great Mako had passed away. And yeah, also I do have more details after the previous recording. It's also pretty short too, so just letting you know that. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. All right, guys, for the first time ever, we are live in front of a Comic-Con. Big thank you to the committee of Corpus Christi Comic-Con, to Danielle and Sabrina for, communicating with me, and we're putting this all together. But for the first time ever, yes, we are doing live in front of a Comic-Con. It's a big deal for me, and I think it's just something new and something different that I want to do. So, and this is also my first time here in Corpus Christi Comic-Con. Now my first time here in the city. I've been to the city a couple of times. I haven't been here in 15 years. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a voice actor. It's been 20 years since this actor had passed away, but his legacy has been alive ever since then because of a different voice actor. To all my listeners out there, I would just say, y'all know that I've done an episode just on the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I've done a full episode about Samurai Jack. And what those two have in common was I've talked briefly about the actor who's played those characters, one of them being Mako Iwamatsu. In case, again, if y'all haven't noticed, Mako Iwamatsu was a voice actor. He was from Japan, and two of his famous characters he's known for playing was General Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Aku from Samurai Jack. Now, I wanted to check other stuff too, basically what else did he do? What else did he play? And I looked into some stuff as well. He played, I think he came out in Conan the Barbarian and then Conan the Conqueror. I've actually never seen those movies before. I just know they had Arnold Schwarzenegger in them, and I just know the fact that he played Barbarian. But I don't know, because when you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't think of Conan. I mean, some people do, but for me, purposefully, I always think of the Terminator or Predator if we're going to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Mako. And Mako was in those movies. I didn't know what character he played, by the way, because most people would think of Mako, they think of just the voice actor or the characters that he played. Because recently I've been binge watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I grown up with that show. I was there when it first aired back in 2005. But in growing up, I wasn't aware that Mako had passed away after the second season, and Iroh was played by a different actor named Greg Baldwin. And if you ever meet Greg Baldwin, I've never met him, but hopefully one day, he always says, he never says he's Aku. He never says he's Iroh. He just says, I'm a Mako impersonator, because he just wants to, he doesn't feel like he's honored to even say, I'm Aku, I'm Iroh. He just says, I'm a Mako impersonator, basically saying I'm keeping his legacy alive because he's the character. Because it's very weird. It's very unique because you watch these two different characters, Aku and Iroh. Aku is just this menacing entity from God knows where, a different entity of a different universe. He's just straight up evil, pretty much what it is. And then when you go to, Avatar: The Last Airbender, he plays Iroh, and Iroh's just such this nice guy that's everybody wants to get advice from. And like I said, we all need an Uncle Iroh in our lives, and sometimes we need to be an Uncle Iroh in other people's lives. But that's what I'm going to talk about. I'll definitely start leading. I'm going to start with Aku a little bit more, and then I'm just going to go Iroh. But of course, straight up just talk about Mako beforehand, because he was more than just a voice actor. He was an actual actor. Like, he appeared on camera. He was an Oscar nominee for a movie called The Sand Pebbles. I have never heard of that movie, the Sand Pebbles, until a couple of days ago. I tried to see where I could find it, but no streaming platform has it. It's like on one of those, like, you gotta rent it for like $14 a night or something like that. And like, knowing me, I'm not gonna rent a movie that I don't even know how I'm gonna feel about it. But I just know Mako was in it. This was back, I think, in the 50s, and he got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. I'm trying to think of what else other than that. I know he also came out in Conan the Barbarian, which I've already mentioned earlier. I've never seen those movies. I'm trying to remember the character that was brought up when he played Conan the Barbarian. But y'all should just look him up. It's really nice. And then while I'm at it, I'm just going to talk about the movie that I actually was introduced to Mako. Now, again, I've already seen Samurai Jack and Avatar, The Last Airbender, like even before this movie came out, actually. It was TMNT 2007. He was the voice of Splinter, which, by the way, perfect casting back for 2006 or 7, or whenever they started making this movie. Because when it comes to animation movies, it varies on like how long ago they recorded, because it takes years for animation to like render out perfectly. But yeah, that's actually the first time I actually heard of the name Mako. Because like when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, whenever Samurai Jack or Avatar: The Last Airbender came out, I don't pay attention to the actors. We don't even pay attention to the credits to any movie or TV show nowadays. So I wasn't really paying attention. And then like I saw this video of like the many voices of Splinter from, TMNT. They had all the actors. This is definitely before the, the 2023 one with Jackie Chan. Again, perfect casting. I cannot wait for the new one. I think it's coming out next year. If y'all have never seen Mutant Mayhem, y'all should. I don't know where you can find it. And I'm not even saying this just to get a sponsorship from Paramount, but if they want to sponsor me, I'm right here. But anyway, that's what I said about Peacock too. Anyway, I saw TMNT, and you can just hear like Iroh from Splinter. It's almost as if they were like meant to be played by the same actor. And interesting, because it's like you just hear that Mako, that I am very disappointed in you, Leonardo. And it's like, bro, like that, I can feel like the wisdom. Okay, I can feel the wisdom of Mako. So that's an interesting fact, is because I've actually never seen TMNT until like maybe 10 years after it was released. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, wow, this is actually really cool. I mean, the story was a little janky for me, but for my taste, technically. But Mako as Splinter is definitely one of the best castings I've ever seen. But let's go back to 2001. I mean, I've already talked about Samurai Jack. Like I said, if y'all ever want to go back to that episode, y'all can. But maybe just a brief history of the character of Aku. Aku's just a straight up evil being. And that's the thing about villains nowadays, is that you don't really like, when you watch a villain, their entire arc is that you want them to be redemptive and stuff like that. But you look back at old villains, I'm talking like Freddy Krueger or the Joker or stuff like that. Like, they're not meant to be redemptive. You're not meant to show them any green flags. It had to be a red flag, because to make a compelling villain you just have to like hate the person, or at least be afraid of him, or just like have a way to root for your character. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having a villain, as long as the story makes sense and there's a reason why. I mean, go back to Zuko from Avatar, if we're going to skip a couple of years. But like Zuko was always meant to be a redemptive character. And that was just how he was written. And even in the beginning, that was how he was supposed to be written. Which, by the way, if y'all haven't met Dante Bosco yet, y'all should. I met him a couple of years ago. Really nice guy. I'm surprised he sounds the same than he did, but like 20 years ago. But to my point, I like villains like these that are just like, oh, we're not going to make it redemptive. We're just going to make this person straight up evil. And that's what I loved about Aku. He was just evil, conniving. Like, if you know like the story, it's like the same story of It in the beginning, where like he was just darkness that just existed. Okay. And I think, if I can remember, I think it was Odin, Ra, and Rama, 3 different deities from 3 different like worldly religions. They try to stop the darkness, and I think that's how they kind of refer to it, as the darkness, but it is Aku. And when he's raised up, all he loves to do is just spread chaos. Because that's what it like, again, going back, let's go back to it. Because remember, it or Pennywise or however you call it, the entity of it, it was just an evil being that existed. And all it loves to do is destroy anything. And that's what pretty much what Aku was. He was something that was like, I'm here to destroy this planet, or rule this planet. He wants power. And if you ever like go and watch Samurai Jack, you will see that how much power he really loves. Like he takes over the future. Okay, like he sends Samurai Jack to the future, which if you remember, that's not even his real name. He's just like I think he was the Emperor's son, if I can remember. And anyway, when he sends Jack to the future, Aku is just full of power and people are afraid of him because he can disintegrate you with his, his laser eyes, or people can call it heat vision. It just depends on how you put it. I mean, if you ever watched the 5th season where he kills the Scotsman, which big surprise to me because I love that character. He just disintegrates the Scotsman big time. But yeah, he's very, very evil. And I think that's something given where I come from, you always know there's good and there's evil. Evil was always never meant to be oh, there's a good side to this person. No, evil was meant to be he's always bad and there's nothing good about him. All this person wants to do is kill, or this person wants to take over, rule, spread fear amongst I'm not even going to worry about that. But anyway, that's all what evil is. So, and then when you look at it, it's just man, this thing is creepy. And it's funny because there's an interview of Mako, and I don't see a lot of Mako interviews, but there's an interview of him when he is learning how to play Aku. And he's talking about how he has to keep his voice very, very low. He's low, low, low. And then that's when he says as soon as he gets to the lowest point that his vocal cords can take, that's where he's okay, that's where I'm good at playing Aku. And yeah, you ever watch some of the big scenes? I'm talking when he disguises himself as a girl. Not a thing you should say nowadays in 2026, but when he disguises himself as a helpless woman, it shows how deceitful he really is, or trying to use his own weapon against him, the way he shapes. Even him and Jack try to go man to man, and Jack is telling him, you cannot use your powers. But obviously Aku does not listen. That's the thing about him, is that sometimes he could be what do you call oh man, it's fun. It's fun for him to be evil. It's weird to say this, but it's just it fits him because it's you see Aku showing any signs of goodness. Yeah, no, that's you lost me. All right, because that's always been the big problem with screenwriters of television writers. They lose your characters. They forgot how their characters were written in the beginning. And I think that's the big credit I give to Genndy Tartakovsky, because he's the one who's if Aku's going to be like this in the beginning, he has to be like this in the end. And that's what I give credit to Genndy Tartakovsky. But, yeah, and it sucks because, when Samurai Jack went on leave, because they only had 4 seasons, and then I think they ended originally either in 2004 or 2005. It's either one of those two. It's right when Mako started doing Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's either 2004 or 2005 when the show went on leave or hiatus, because they never had an official final season until 2017. So at that point, Cartoon Network and Genndy just were yeah, let's just take a break from here. I don't remember the full reason why, to be honest with y'all. But then Nickelodeon, I would say this was one of my favorite shows of all time. And for the record, if y'all don't remember or don't know, and for the audience, I only covered the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender because there's only been so far 2 remakes. One remake that we don't talk about right now, and then the Netflix show, which I need to cover when the new season comes out, because that's how I want to do it. I want to talk about each season rather than just talk about the show on its own. But now we move to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Mako is playing, we all know as Iroh, a great supporting character, by the way. And if you've never seen the show, either show, to be honest with you, y'all should. It's very interesting because it's not even just for kids. That's a big critique I always hear about animation, is that, oh, it's animation, it's all meant for kids. No, it wasn't. I mean, if you ever actually watch old 80s animation, not Disney, they were pretty adult, not adultish, but they were pretty mature. They were actually pretty graphic. even when you watch like anime, they're not really just meant for kids. And y'all should, because like Samurai Jack, though like has like some childlike qualities in the beginning, it gets super dark and mature in the end. Because like I said, when I talk about Samurai Jack on one of my episodes, Jendi knew the people who watched it. And he knew the people who watched it in the beginning would grow up, because I was maybe 5 or 6 when the show first came out. And then I was 20, turning 21 when the final season kicked in. And as for Avatar, I was maybe about 9 or 10 when the show first came out. It just depends on the time of day, because I was born literally June of 96. But I mean, I wasn't like paying attention too much on like seasons and stuff, because again, when you're a kid, your mind doesn't really process too much. So as a kid, you know, I used to like it, Avatar: The Last Airbender. And then I never really fully grasped Uncle Iroh until I started rewatching the show and looking into it. And I was like, wow, like he's a character that's like we need to hang around with. You get what I mean? He's like your therapist, your pastor, your father. He's all that stuff that we needed, because they always say with age comes wisdom, and that's super true. Because how you describe Iroh, the only way I would describe Iroh is that he's just like the old wise guy who make the best tea ever, though we can never taste Uncle Iroh's tea because it's an anime show. And this is coming from a guy who really loves tea. Like, I make my own tea sometimes. But it's just the things he's talking about, like some of the famous lines. Like, even in the beginning when he's training Zuko, he's like, fire does not come from the breast. Fire does not come from the muscle. It comes from the breast. That's just letting you know, like, when you're training with Iroh, you can't just like think with your muscles. You have to breathe in every time you bend. And then, of course, like, and I saw this episode maybe a week or two ago, because I'm still binge watching it. When we get, you know, leaves from the vine, I mean, it's that biggest, saddest moment ever of the show. And if y'all have never seen the show, y'all should. Again, one, y'all should. But two, if y'all haven't seen the show, I guess I'll say it to you. The Telebossing Say, which is considered one of the best, if not the best episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was supposed to be a filler episode, which is just basically an episode that has nothing to do with the plot of the season, but it's there to fill up the time and stuff like that. But it became a big episode because it was an anthology episode, meaning we follow different people in a different story. With Iroh's story, is basically he's getting ready for a picnic. And that picnic, turns out, is that he's getting ready for a celebration of his son's birthday. And if you know the story of the lore, Iroh's son died in a battle. It was the siege of Ba Sing Se. It's the backstory, so we never see it. But he gets a picture of his son, Luten, and he lights up some candles and he says, "Happy birthday, my son. If only I would have saved you." And then we hear Leaves from the Vine. And the very first time when you watch that, you're just telling yourself, I'm holding back those tears. I'm holding back those tears because that's like the saddest moment. And if y'all know, some of y'all know my story involving my dad, every time I like post a picture about it, I always play Leaves from the Vine. And it always has to, I don't know why. And I blame Instagram for this, to be honest with you. It always has to be like the saddest moment of the saddest version of that song. Because it's like you can hear the tears coming from Iroh. And the interesting thing is that like that photo of Iroh's son, Luten, that's actually a photo of Mako from when he was in the army. Because remember, he died after recording season 2. And I think he would probably passed away a week or two before that episode even aired. So they had some time to go back and edit in memory of Mako, or for Mako. And it's pretty much, it's not just like Iroh, you know, like in grief of his son. It's also like Iroh in grief of basically like his master or his creator. You know, like Mako is Iroh. And I think Dante has mentioned like he's had good moments with Mako. He'll still talk about it to this day. And that was always like the biggest moment of the show, is because Iroh has always been like the vulnerable one. He's not afraid to show vulnerability. And at his lowest at that point, I think we all fell in love with him even more. Especially because like that season he gets his own tea shop, which is like pivotal for the show. Because we know Iroh loves tea. And it's like he's bonding with his nephew Zuko. He's a hothead. I mean, yeah, he's a firebender. Firebenders tend to be hot-headed. But Zuko's was always like in his head. I was always trying to get him out of his head. trying to tell him like there's more things in life, you know what I mean? And it's interesting because he stands out, Mako, or not Mako, but Iroh stands out a lot more from other firebenders. He's not evil. He's not like, his character, again, is not the same character from Samurai Jack. This is a character that we just want to like interact with, who wants to give us like some wisdom and knowledge and of course some tea. One of my favorite, not my favorite episodes, but my favorite Iroh moment is actually like, what do you call it? So it's like Iroh just got struck down by Azula and Zuko's trying to heal him and Zuko's make some tea. And he's like, "Dear uncle, I hope I made it the way you like it." He didn't make it the way you like it, but Iroh is such a nice guy that he drinks the tea not knowing how bad that tea is. And when Zuko wasn't looking, he just like throws it out over the window. I always go back to that because I feel like I've always been open and honest about like my camp kids. They've always seen me as a father figure. I tell them, please don't do that because they know how much I love tea. So please don't try to make me tea. I'll handle the tea myself because I would definitely do that. I love them. Trust me, I love them. But again, that's the thing. I'm talking about more about Iroh than I do about Aku. But the thing is that like, I want to stick to more of the Mako era because I will talk about the Greg era. So here it is. I was so surprised that Iroh and Aku were played by, again, two different actors because, especially Iroh. I wasn't paying attention because I didn't know. Well, I'm just going to keep this in the dark then. Anyway, I didn't know that Mako had died after season 2. And if you ever rewatch the show, you'll notice that Iroh doesn't talk until the episode called The Avatar and the Fire Lord. Well, the lights are back on. Anyway, if you ever go watch that episode, like watch it from the beginning, from season 3, episode 1, until I think episode 6. That's because at that point they were still trying to hire a voice actor. And then, yeah, you didn't know that the voice of Iroh was a different actor because Greg Baldwin, that's the name, sounded so much like Iroh. Like he literally had that voice. So it's like if you ever go back and listen to it again, like Greg's version sounds a little bit more like grungier. So it's like you can still hear the difference, but you weren't paying attention that much as a kid. And even then, like most adults now don't even know that it's two different actors. So in case y'all are listening and y'all didn't know that, yeah, y'all know that now. But that was played by two different actors. And the thing, again, go back to Greg. Greg says, or he says, I don't play. Or let's go back to it. Say if he was here at this convention here at Corpus Christi Comic-Con and it was his panel and they asked him, who do you play? He doesn't say I play Iroh or I play Aku. He says, oh, I'm a Mako impersonator because he keeps Mako alive. That's the thing. And that's why I respect him. And that's also why fans love him too. Like he's the closest thing we'll ever have to meeting Mako because he's voiced the character. He's helped keep the legacy alive of Mako. And even after 20 years, guys, it's still like surreal for me or for all of us. You know what I mean? Like you ever just like look at the time and you think like, wow, this was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It felt so like, didn't even feel that long. You know what I mean? Because I'm about to be 30 this year. Like everything that happened when I was like 10, 20, felt like happened a year ago. That's how time works. The time is so weird. But I think y'all should like just give everything else a watch. Conan, the Sand Pebbles. Look up other stuff too. I think he was in the West Wing. I could be wrong, but I think he was in the West Wing, which is an old show by Martin Sheen, the other Sheen. But I think he was in that show. Anyway, either it's the West Wing or what's that other movie? It was Michael Douglas and Annette Bening, and he plays, I think it's like The Dinner with the President or something like that. But go check it out. I remember him being like a waiter to a president. I'm just trying to think about it at the top of my head, but I can't right now. But yeah, because it's like when you watch animation movies or animation shows, you only link to certain characters, like, or certain actors by the characters they play. But if you ever watch them, you know, like when they're not voice acting, pretty much is what I mean to say, you'd be surprised. Like if anybody's listening right now, if you're a big Harry Potter fan, I'm going to let y'all know right now, Jason Isaacs, who played Lucius Malfoy, played General Zhao, eventually becoming Admiral Zhao in the show. But you wouldn't have known that because Jason Isaacs is British and he uses an American accent to play Zhao. Or like, I mean, I wouldn't say Mark Hamill, for example, because anybody can link any voice character to Mark Hamill. But of course, Mark Hamill, we know, plays Luke. He eventually played the Joker. And it's interesting because Mark Hamill does come out in the Last Airbender. He played Firelord Ozai, who's the main villain in this entire show. Which, by the way, Daniel Day Kim, who plays him in the newer version, I don't know why, but they got that acting spot on. It's better than what they were going with Shyamalan. But that's just a little thing. And it's interesting because it's like when I look at the live action version of, as in like the newer one, the Netflix one, I don't know the actor's name right now, but he looks like an Iron. He looks like he could keep Mako's legacy alive, you know? Because like, again, I hate to go back to this one, but like what Shyamalan kept doing with the movie, he really messed it up. And he messed up Iroh for us, okay? And I feel like if they made a live action Samurai Jack, they would mess up Aku for us. Like, you don't disrespect Mako like that. But that's pretty much where it is. Again, I love these shows. I will always love these shows. Is this coming from a guy like sort of an anime convention right now? I'm not a huge anime guy, but there's been a couple here and there. And, you know, some people call Avatar The Last Airbender, even Samurai Jack, not true anime, which is made by an American company, technically. Because anime, you know, it comes from the original mangas. That was, you know, you get the voice actors from Japan, and then you get voice actors here in America. So that's why some people don't really consider them like true anime. They consider them more like American style anime. Either or, they're really good. Y'all should check out. So now let's go back to Samurai Jack because it just flew over my head. So 2017, they got a new season. I was like, what are they going to do? Mako has been dead at that point for 11 years. And my friend Jesus, which has been on the show many times, he couldn't make it for this one. But he said, oh, it's Greg. And that's actually how I figured it all out, to be honest with you. It's like, who's Greg? He's like, Greg is the Mako fill-in. I was like, since when? He's like, since 2008. I was like, what do you mean? And that's when he officially told me that it was a different actor that filled in for Mako. And I was like, wait, what? So again, you go back, you hear the voices, you're like, it's so similar. And then you listen closely, it's like, okay, I hear a little bit of a difference. Because there is a big major differences of Mako's Aku and Greg Bowen's Aku. I don't know why, but Greg Bowen's Aku makes him like sound French. It makes it sound Aku French. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you can tell the difference. And I think it's because like Greg hasn't done a Mako impersonation at that point again in like 8 or 9 years. So it's like instead of long ago in a distant land, it's, oh, that's the new Aku. Or that's the old Aku. Like you can hear the difference in the voices. But Greg does his best. And plus, like, he does it in a video game. I think it's like a PC game, which, by the way, if there's any pro gamers out there, let me know if PC actually does still exist. Because some people say yes, some people say no. I'm not an avid gamer, so I officially would not know. But it looked like a pretty interesting game. Which, I mean, it takes me back to those era of like when a movie comes out and Xbox or Nintendo were like, hey, we want to make a video game from that movie. I miss that era, to be honest with you. And what they did with the Samurai Jack game, I was like, oh man, that's actually really cool. It takes me back, but we need more of that. And plus, like, the other thing I want to do is that if I ever meet Greg Bowen, it has to be, and it legit, he does this all the time. Every time, like, he goes to a convention, not every time, but sometimes he goes to a convention, he's like, you know what? Rather than just like showing up as Greg Baldwin, he shows up as Iroh. Because again, it's not only the fact that he's carrying on the voice legacy of Iroh, he's carrying on the persona of Iroh. Because Greg was a big fan of the show, which I think that's what makes it better. You know, you can't just like, if like you kick off a voice actor, or if a voice actor dies, but you want to keep the character alive, you don't just want to get some random person that you know. And it's like, yeah, I'm here to play the character. No, you need a fan of the show who can really embody the character. And that's why Greg Baldwin was there to carry on that legacy. I mean, yes, I keep saying that a lot, but I think it's just because, A, I'm trying to fill up time, but B, it's like because I'm so passionate, and everybody can be passionate about something. You just say the same thing over and over again. That's just how I am. But that's like where I'm at. I mean, if I ever meet Greg, it has to be, if he's doing it in costume, it would be so fantastic to see him like dressed as Iroh. Which if you've ever seen, there's a video that came out during the time when the pandemic started. and he's trying to keep everybody positive. So he's in his Iroh getup, he's doing the voice, it's like my friends in this dark time, and it's stuff like that. Moments that I do wish Mako was still alive for season 3, because remember, Greg took over. 2 big moments it involved Uncle Iroh. The first moment was when Iroh was in prison and he's just bulking up, he's getting shredded. Because remember, he was a bit overweight when the show started, and then he just got shredded, like ripped, as soon as the 3rd season came in. That, even though, again, there was no lines for that episode. And if you ever want to know, it's called Sokka's Master. That's one of my favorite episodes, to be honest with you, because it has Robert Patrick from the Terminator in that episode. So y'all should check that out. And my second favorite moment from the 3rd season that I wish Mako was a part of was when Zuko goes to Uncle Iroh and he's like, Uncle, I'm so sorry for betraying you. And Iroh just reaches in and grabs him and just hugs him. Yes, he was like disappointed in him, but he can never be mad at him or just hate him for that moment. He knew how confused Zuko was. But of course, the biggest moment for every fan will be Leaves from the Vine. Because come on, that's like the saddest moment of his life. Or another great line is like, life happens wherever you go, which is true. Like, when I moved out of San Antonio to Huntsville for a couple of years, I just made the best of it. And you make good friends and life partners and stuff like that. So that's pretty much where I'm going to end things off with. But to the people who showed up and the people who stayed, thank y'all very much for it. To Corpus Christi Comic-Con, thank you for putting this together. Hopefully next year I can have a big and larger, like a topic to talk about. But I really appreciate this. You guys have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. We're signing off. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, I know if the audio sounded weird, again, decided to use mic on top of mic when I could have projected my voice. That's the word I was looking for earlier, projected my voice. But anyway, I hope I have another opportunity to do something like that. And who knows where it goes from there. But anyway, some big news. This isn't really coming from the podcast itself, but from Tough Love Pictures itself, which is kind of like my own little production company, I guess you can say. But so far, it's only done just the podcast. But to my point, I'm in the process of writing my first feature, and I've actually been in the process for about 7 years. It's just that like things just go back and forth and stuff like that. But I'm in the process of writing it. But as soon as maybe in August, when I come back for the season, I am going to start my own crowdfunding campaign for the film. But yeah, I'm not using Kickstarter. I'm going to be using Seed and Spark. So once the season starts for the first couple of episodes, it just depends on how long the campaign is, but it might be 2 months. I'm not too sure. But for the first couple of episodes in the season, once it starts, I'm going to be saying, hey, so I have until this day to get, however much I need for my film. It's about, like the struggles of me, about like how my family and I went through after my dad passed. It's more of my personal story. And that's what it's about. So once I get my Seed and Spark campaign going, I'm going to, for the first couple of episodes of the new season coming up in August, I'm going to just say like, hey, this is how many days I got left. Please, if I can get, people to contribute in part of the crowdfunding campaign and stuff like that. Once I'm done, hopefully I'm done in July, but because I'm recording this before July, but hopefully I'm done in July with just the first draft and then writing my second draft when I submit the script to hopefully someone who wants to be part of this. But yeah, that's the big news. I'm finally get to do my own feature, and then I'm also starting to do some of my own video projects that I've been trying to do for a long time. But anyway, thank you guys so much. You have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Signing off.